Ranjaya,
Sir.
you have to mute for yourself because this disturbance will come. So, right? Sanjana, yesterday we discussed the lessons. What are the lessons? The lessons are first block lessons are Renaissance in Europe or in Italy and Reformation movement we discussed. And what was the ideas emerged out of the Renaissance means Renaissance ideas are uh, uh, humanistic attitude towards the humanistic attitude, outlook and a rationalistic outlook. The two outlooks are emerged individual. Freedom is emerged. Thus, the Renaissance period, the new developments are revolutionary developments are in the ideology, humanism, rationalism, new ideology, and also in literature, regional languages, regional states are emerged. Regional languages emerged. Thus, the in art and architecture also new developments are new human beings are shown beautiful like Leonardo da Vinci, Mona Lisa. Earlier, human beings are shown as a cartoons. Less importance was given. Human beings are born on this earth for satisfying the God, not for themselves. Now, the concentration is human beings as to satisfy first themselves, their pleasure first. Thereafter, God is secondary. Human being is first because everything in this world created by human beings, man. So that man need is first. So that was the ideology emerged. Scientific progress is also sun's earth center theory is gone out. Sun center theory came into existence. Thus, a new revolutionary ideology due to the Renaissance came into existence. Then Reformation protested the earlier wrong beliefs, domination of church, luxurious life of the Pope is protested, and new Protestants movements are came against the bad practices of church. Thus, a Protestant movement is born with the Martin Luther from Germany, John Calvin from Calvinism, then Zwinglianism, that Protestant movement. Thus, competition with the Protestant and Catholic movements. Other areas are developed by the competition of these two. They removed the earlier faults or bad things, and the competition came between the two Protestant churches and Catholic churches. They introduced the humanistic measures of education, health, loans to the people. Thus, these two competed throughout the world and converted the people into their religions. That is why Reformation movement is given freedom. Then war is occurred in between the states. Then states also got independence against the one political domination of the Holy Roman Emperor. Political domination of the church is liberated. Thus, the rise of nation states came into existence. Then another one, when Ottoman Turks were occupied the this Constantinople, Mediterranean route was closed, so that led to the geographical discoveries on through the higher seas, new discoveries by Portugal, Spain, and other Protestant countries of England and other countries also, new discoveries. So wherever they discovered, that became a colony of them. That is, new lands were discovered, new areas were discovered, put under their control. Then this is colonization leads to the imperialism. Now that is new discoveries, rise of nation states. These are the developments which we discussed in the yesterday class. So this way, now today, then what was the ideology here? Individualism, Bible is supreme, Bible, the Bible is supreme, not the Pope. Bible book is supreme. Book can be understood by the man according to his wish and will, and he will follow. Who is so Pope? So against Pope domination, church domination is gone out. Individualism, rationalism, humanism is came into existence during this Renaissance and Reformation movements. Now we are going to turn into a new lesson. That new lesson is industrialization. Industrialization means industrial revolution. Industrial revolution, which was occurred in between the 1750s to 1850s, it was occurred in first in the England. So that it is 100 years industrial revolution took place. So that some of the writers are opened that it is Sanjana to me, sir. Yes. So that industrial revolution 100 years. So that the it is a some of them are opened that it why could not we call it a evolution, not a revolution. So that anyway, a revolutionary changes came into existence out of the industrial revolution of 100 years. So that is it is called a revolution, not evolution. So 1750s to 1850, thus industrial revolution is occurred first in England. Why in England only? Thereafter, after 1850, it has spread to the other countries. Why industrial revolution is occurred in England only? Because England was ruled many countries, many countries ruled. So that sun never sets in British Empire. So that the English people, merchants and traders are accumulated large money. This money is invested for the purchasing of machines, invention, new inventions also came into existence during that period. And so those machines are purchased through their money. And also other one is that in England, England was famous for the naval transportation. Naval transportation is very cheap than the land transportation. So that England is an island, naval supremacy, so that naval transportation and its products. What was products? Textiles were also there in England, and also iron mines and coal mines were nearer to the one side by side, so that the ingredients needed for the industrial revolution are available in England. In England, another one is that uh, that is this encirclement of lands, big estates of lands, not like our 2 acres and 3 acres. They were in the big industry. The beginning, feudal lords were thousands of acres were maintained and breeding of sheep and goat. Later, when the industrialization came, the machinery introduced in agriculture, so the agriculture development is occurred. Another opportunity for England is that new inventions also came into existence in that England and surrounding area. Those are new inventions in the cotton. James Hargreaves, James Hargreaves, and Samuel Crompton. These are developed in cotton weaving missions and weaving mission and bringing out the James Hargreaves thread bringing out the from mission, hundreds of threads, thousands of threads from the mission. And then another one is that James Samuel Crompton is weaving mission. So that is way a revolution came in the textile industry in England. Then another one, James Watt, steam engine. Steam engine, when coal was digging, the water came up, so that to pump out the water from the earth, out of the well. So the steam engine, James Watt invented steam engine was used to pump out the water from coal mines. That is way steam engine was utilized. Then not only for that, for running of the machines also steam engine utilized. That is way James Watt steam engine. George Stephenson locomotive rail engine is came into existence. George Stephenson rail engine. So this is way steam engine, rail engine, steam mission, and so running the mission steam power and rail engine locomotive.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir,
Yes.
can I know what in this page these topics are there?
Industrial revolution.
In which page, sir?
Page I don't know. I am not having a book, but this is the industry. See, industrial revolution is there. No, in the third unit. I think third or fourth in the first block. In the first block, industrial revolution is there. No, block one.
Okay, sir.
In block one, industrial revolution is the last lesson.
Okay, sir.
Unit in the black one unit, last unit in the black one.
Okay, sir.
Industrial revolution. Are you caught? Are you catched that industrial revolution?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
You simply listen, and title of the lesson only you see.
Yes, sir.
If you go through seeing the page, you cannot understand my lesson, because my lesson is there in our pages, but you see the lesson number in the contents page or headings, content page and headings of the industrial revolution you can see, but
Okay, sir.
not in page wise. You should not open contents page, and also lessons contents you can see, but not to go page wise or so the lesson contents, and also the lessons contents and lesson contents you can see. Industrial
Okay.
revolution page you can open.
Okay, sir.
First headings you see. So headings and maps you can see, but other things, so headings and maps only you are permitted, because at the same time you have to concentrate on me. So that is, so that's industrial revolution. Then another inventions are the Henry Bessemer invented the melting of iron. Henry Bessemer, uh, and also another one is that John Acadam. And John Acadam is invented to the what is damper roads, or what do you call roads without jolting the. So John Acadam, what is new now? We are using no national highway roads. That type of roads, what making of with damper, that is new roads construction was John Acadam. So this is way Henry Bessemer iron invention, John Acadam road making without jolting the vehicles. So and Henry Thomas Edison bulb domestic use, and further electric use, Edison by electrical machines also came into. So these are all new inventions came into existence. So that is way mechanized production started where in England first. Then industrial England is having large colonies. so that large colonies are supported raw material for the machines of England, machinery of England. Thus, England was mechanized, a large production of finished goods. Those were pumped out to the colonies through the rail ship ships which were developed by them. So thus the colonies were used by the England, but thus spread their raw material. Raw material was taken from colonies, finished goods were pumped into the colonies. Thus, England became the richest country in the world. Thus, this after that, England advocated free trade policy without restricting the restrictions. Free trade policy, laissez-faire policy. That way, England pumped out its goods. Then, and then slowly, industrial revolution spread to the Germany, France. Then those were also the protective measures were taken of the nations to uh, not to decline their own industries. However, industrial revolution spread out to the whole world. Thus, what is came into existence due to the industrial revolution is that big business, the large scale production spread out in the industrial revolution. Machinery production, machinery is spread. Machinery production is spread to the other countries. Large production, big business came into existence, and machinery production everywhere came into existence. The indigenous crafts, artisans were ruined, but the industrial industrial machineries occupied its place. Thus, this way, industrial revolution succeeded in Europe. Then industrial revolution is industrial revolution is also spread out in other countries. So as a result of spreading of industrial revolution, new dimensions are came into existence. Big business, big economic, big production in the economic field. Agriculture was commercialized, and commercial products came into existence. Then big so agriculture, everything, machinery was used in industry and agriculture. Machinery was used, so large production came out due to this. Large production came out. It was in meet the needs of the people. People were happy to getting of goods of needs in a lesser cost. So that is way the society, social change, middle class, new middle class. So due to this industrial occupations, a new middle class emerged in the society. What is the development? Earlier, only rich class and poor class were there. Now, out of the industrial revolution, new middle class is emerged, who are accommodated in the as a lawyers, educationalists, and technicians. New middle class. New middle class is only people to change the society, social revolution, social equality. This new middle class came into existence in throughout world. So that is new middle class who were fought for the against the restrictions, against the despotism of the higher class is fought, and liberty, equality. These are all came out due to the fighting of the new middle class. Then industrial revolution, new society, and also industrial revolution is due to the new middle class fought against the higher class. Then political changes also came into, not only economic changes brought people, their needs are easily fulfilled. That is in the economic needs. For social aspect, what is that? Liberty, equality, fraternity, like that means equality. These ideologies came into existence because of new middle class work against the rich class. Then Karl Marx writings influenced. Karl Marx, Das Capital and Communist Manifesto is written, influenced on working class, industrial labor class, or industrial trade unions are organized themselves. They fought and got the needs of their needs of their children, and that thus their conditions are improved. That thus new middle class out of the new middle class, the party system also came into existence. That parties, Labour Party and Conservative Party in England, they fought for the democracy. As the monarchy is gone out, democracy came into, parliamentary system of government came into existence in England. That parliamentary system of democracy not only remained in England, it has spread to the other countries. And also, what is another one is that the liberty, individualism came out. That is way the individualism, they spread social equality, political democracy, and then later on, due to the Karl Marx influence, communist countries are also emerged. Communism means nationalization of everything, but earlier only democracy. Now communism. Communism means nationalization of all things under the government. But against the spread of communism, America and other countries followed the policy of resisting the spreading of communism. That is democratic socialist countries. Democracy will not survive. Democratic socialism only survive. Thus, due to the competition with the communist ideology, democratic socialist countries. Thus, changes came in the society, changes came in the economy, changes came in the polity out of the Industrial Revolution. Now, we are going to turn into another lesson, that is American War of Independence. And the next lesson is that French Revolution and Napoleon. These two lessons we have to complete within this our period. That American War of Independence. What is that American War of Independence? Americans are, who are the American 13 colonies of America, North America, are the settled people of the English. English people are migrated for the trade and commerce and settled in England, settled in America, and emerged as a 13 colonies. Emerged as a 13 colonies. That those are the people not different from the English people. Mostly these are settled, came out from England. Local people were subordinated to the, pushed out to the west of America, west of North America or USA. So that is way 13 colonies are emerged out of the settlement of the English people. Now these American colonies, 13 colonies are these are frightened. These are frightened. 13 colonies were in the fear of the French attack. French colony was there where at Canada. In north of the 13 colonies, French rule was there. But these colonies under the British rule, for each colony is having a governor and having local assemblies under the parliamentary rule of the England, having appointed by governor, appointed by England, and assemblies are the local people of the 13 colonies. Each colony is having governor appointed by the England, and local representatives were formed into assemblies. This way, the government was going on in 13 colonies. Now, as long as French threat was there in the Canada, French there was international wars were going on in between the France and England. In France and England, there were 3 continuous wars. England and France, Karnataka wars. In India, first Karnataka war, second Karnataka wars, third Karnataka war. Like that, this is a third war in between. First war and the second war and third war. 3 wars. 3 stages of wars are occurred in between the France and England. England, for who has to rule the whole world? Now, England is having more naval power, more colonies under England. Now, French nation also competing for the England, because French nation was ruled by 14th Louis. So that 14th Louis was very great man of a great king. So he established power, so that he wanted to get colonies from the England. So that there was a competition between the England and France. Out of this competition, three stages of wars occurred in England. That last stage of war is that Saptavar Sangram. 7 years war is continued. War started in 1740. It is continued 1756 and 1756 to 63. 7 years war, and in these all the years there was a fight in between England and France. So due to this international war was going on, the colonies were silent and supported to the England Parliament. And then in Saptavar Sangram, 7 years war between 1756-63, then England France competition is eliminated from India. In India, all colonies lost by France. Not only in India, in Canada also in France lost all colonies. So that the colonies people became freely airing now. No, there was no threat of Canada. Now, due to the wars, three stages of wars done by the England against the France, the financial crisis came in England because of maintenance of defense, producing arms, and soldiers. So that is a financial crisis England nation for England nation. So that England nation is enforcing taxes on the colonies. See, England stating that England nation is fought for the purpose of colonies protection, not for herself. So that colonies people also has to bear the taxes when nation is their supreme nation is in financial crisis. So that in enforcing the taxes and also naval, earlier also there was a restrictions in the naval transportation against the colonies. Colonies must trade only with the British ships and also trade only with the British England, not to trade with the other colonies. But during war, but these restrictions were not enforced strictly earlier. Now, after the elimination of competition, French power is defeated. Then the England is forced naval restrictions on the colonies. Only English ships must use, and the colonies must trade only with England, not other countries. So that enforcing the naval restrictions on the colonies. Not only that, raising the income, Stamp Act, Sugar Act, and that is way sugar tax, tea tax, tea, tea, tea tax. Tea was producing in bringing from India and other countries, and that is so that is where the tea act, sugar act, stamp act. Through this act, England was decided to raise money to fulfill its financial crisis. Now these colonies people are raising the voice. Who are you taxing on us? Earlier, they were in a fear, but now there was no fear to the 13 colonies. So they raised voice without our representation. Our representation not there in England, English Parliament. Who are you to taxing on us? They are questioning taxation without representation is illegal. They raised voice. Who? 13 colonies raised voice, one after another, not all it's once, one after another raising voice. They are all gathered together and declared their they wanted their no taxation without representation. They declared their independence against the restrictions. See, England, what is happened against the Tea Act? Tea Act is tea is removed. Tea, see, Sugar Act, sugar is tax and sugar is removed. Stamp or protest movement against stamps were also withdrawn. Only tea and small amount of tea tax was remained to show the sovereignty of the England. Even that was also protested by the colonies. Thus, a contradiction came between the yes, a contradiction came between the two. That is the pumping of tea into the colonies. That is called the what is at 1773 Boston Tea Party massacre. Boston Tea Party massacre. Massacre means the tea which was coming from the England was what the here the American colonies of this colony Virginia, the people were Red Indians in a disguised form. They boarded into the ship. All tea chests or boxes were pushed into the pushed into the sea, dumped into the sea, and as a result of that, England sent forces against this act. Then restrictions and forces were sent under the generalship of Lord Mountbatten, Lord Cornwallis, English general. Lord Cornwallis, large army was sent against also gathered together, declared their independence under the leadership of the George Washington. 1776, they declared all the colonies are gathered together. 1776, they are themselves are declaring their independence. Then war started under George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and other Jefferson who prepared the independence document. Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, a leader of the. They are also gathered armies under the George Washington. The war started in between the England forces and colony forces under George Washington. So in this 1776 to 1783, the war continued in between the English forces and the George Washington American colonies forces 1776 to 83. In the initial phase, George Washington means American colonies army were defeated. However, they know the locations and guerrilla fight, guerrilla war they started due to this George Washington leadership, guerrilla war. In that way, they were able to get some ascendancy or some victory. Whenever the colonies, George Washington got victory in some places, then all European countries, particularly France, all European countries who were suffered under the belief, under the British imperialism, colonialism, all colonies were under the control of England. All other nations are suffering due to the monopolization of colonies under his own control. So that Dutch Netherlands, France, you see, I told you know that France, entire colonies of India lost, entire colonies of Canada lost, so that taking the revenge against the English forces, French nation with men and material, the Dutch Netherlands, all other enemies of England gathered together with men and material army and naval and navy forces supported to the American colonies army. George Washington stood behind George Washington army generalship behind the others gathered and supported was George Washington with men and material and ships blockaded. English ships were coming to America, blockaded in the seas. So this way, new enforcement did not come up to the from England to colonies. So that is way all the nations are blockaded the England movements, and thus army, naval forces of all the nation, all in particular England, French nation, and Dutch Netherlands, all other nations. So thus George Washington got victory. George Washington got victory. Then Lord Cornwallis surrendered his forces. So this way, England lost our 13 colonies, which which was ruled by English Parliament earlier. So now, see, whatever the territory, large, huge territory, lost England, and the 13 colonies are became independent. These 13 colonies are drafted their own written constitution, liberty, equality, Bill of Rights, which was there in England. Bill of Rights there in England. England was a democratic country, Bill of Rights. So same declaration of rights to the man. Man was born free, but everywhere in chains, so that natural rights are there, then declaration of rights of man, and new constitution is prepared. That is first democratic written constitution in America. Thus the American Revolution succeeded. American Independence War 1883. 1783, America became independent nation with consisting of not only 13 colonies, with other states. Thus, U.S. United States of America, United States of America formed under a new constitution. Thomas Jefferson, George Washington became the was army leader, became the first prime minister of America. Then, no, thus a new constitution, republic constitution, and not kingship. Kingship is not there. Only democratic republic. America is emerged. Bill of Rights, rights of individualism and liberty, equality. These ideas are based on these ideas. American Constitution, American Revolution succeeded in United States of America is formed with the written Constitution. Now, now we are turning to ne- next one is that French Revolution. Very big lesson. This is yes, yes. American Revolution is over. Now we are turning into French Revolution. French Revolution is 1776 to 1783. American Revolution is completed. American written constitution was formed. The Democratic Republic country was formed. This influence also fall on the France. Why? Because French army people, Lafayette, particularly Lafayette participated in the American War of Independence. This man was the first man who spread the American ideology into the France. The ideology, French soldiers who came to support the America returned to the France. This ideology spread out in France. Yes, slowly it is cultivating the minds of the people. Now, this one of the influence of American War of Independence, French Revolution broke out. French Revolution to breaking out the French Revolution, there are the causes. First cause is that dictatorship of the yes. What is your problem, Kumar Sultana? So you have to mute yourself, otherwise disturbance coming to me. What is your problem? So are you following? Now French Revolution. Time is very only 20 minutes are there. We have to complete in 20 minutes. Is the French Revolution, Napoleon Bonaparte. Now the French Revolution, one of the most important cause for the French Revolution is that dictatorship of France, French rulers, Bourbon rulers. French monarchs are called Bourbons. French Revolution, Bourbon 14th Louis, was very great ruler, very great ruler, but involved France in many wars, but French nation economically bankruptcy, ruined, but politically it was very great under the 14th Louis. But 14th Louis, at the time of his deathbed, he advised to his son 15th Louis not to involve wars after me advisor. But 15th Louis is also involved wars, wasted money. French nation was barbars, bankruptcy, and economically crisis. Then after 15th Louis, 16th Louis came to the power. More than 60 years. It's a wonderful thing. More than 60 years, each ruler ruled these countries. 60, 50 years ruled all these three. 14th Louis, 15th Louis, 16th Louis was inefficient. He was influenced by his wife Mary Antoinette. He was Jahangir influenced by Noor Jahan. Like that, Mary Antoinette influenced the king and his administrative matters. That's weakened the government. Now, 15th, 16th Louis period is both are democrat, both are despots. Uh, all these rulers are brought France what economic ruination. Then another first cause is the despotic rulers, yes, and then second cause ancient regime. Ancient regime means the ancient regime in French society. There were three types of people. First, people are called first estate. People are called nobles. Nobles are first estate. Estate means it is French Parliament is called estate general. Estate means a section. So nobles are first section, enjoying all the lands without taxation, all the properties and government jobs without any taxation, any payment. Now, second section is that second estate is that clergy people also huge lands, enjoying the taxes, collecting from the people, and without any payment to the government. Last section is that third estate or third people are called common, common men. These are common men paying to the government and paying to the landlords because their lands are cultivating and church lands are cultivating, and each individual has to pay. Each Christian individual has to pay 1/10 of their money, gathered money to the church maintenance. So this is way they are all these common people are payers, but the nobles and clergy, nobles are called first estate, clergy are called second section, second estate. These these were called privileged. The third section is called common man, is called unprivileged. Though there was a large gap in the privileged and unprivileged. See, the one man is rich, eating everything. Other man is not eating, not having any food. Then whoever is not having food, he will definitely rob the other man. So this is way French society inequalities were much increased in the society in between the privileged, unprivileged common people. So this is the disparity cause for the French Revolution. Then next one is that philosophers. Three philosophers are emerged during this period, or earlier, or some contemporary period. The earlier was Montesquieu, spirit of laws. Montesquieu advocated that, see, laws should be separated. See, judiciary, executive, legislation, each should be separated, not in the hands of one man. Yeah, in the France, all these powers are in the hands of only king, so that he became a despotic king or dictator, became a dictator. So that power should be separated. That is Montesquieu advocated. That was the mm, that was Montesquieu for separation of powers is followed in American Constitution. In American Constitution, executive is separate, legislation is separate, judiciary was separate. Now here in France, all power was concentrated in the hands of the ruler only. Now Montesquieu advocated that separation of powers. Now another one, Voltaire, the great philosopher, criticizing the monopoly of kings, a dictatorship, criticized the bad practices of kings and their dictatorship, and also church practices also criticized by Voltaire, advocated, spread his ideology among the people through his writings. So that Voltaire, satirical criticism, then then Rousseau advocated another ideology is that general will, social contract. Society is given to the contract to the ruler to rule over them in a good way, but rulers are not ruling good way. So that is reason. So people are having power to remove that bad rulers. Thus, a social contract theory. But the Rousseau advocated that man is freely born, freely born. After birth, he is everywhere in chains, so that man should live in liberty, not in chains. So advocated a revolution. So that sovereignty is in the people, not in the king. People are sovereign. Ultimate power is in the people. So that is why philosophers are roused the people's discontentment. Not this. This was another next cause is that financial crisis by the period of the 1789, July 14th period. French nation 1788 it was under famine. 1789 it was under severe cold. There was no production, famine, so that people came to the cities, particularly Paris. Large strength of people came to the Paris. Laborers came to Paris for the employment or food purpose or for work purpose. So that by this period, 3 billions were in debt. 16th Louis was unable to carry the government without getting of taxes. So without getting of taxes, see, getting of taxes, French State General or French Parliament has to be approved for new taxes. Now, earlier already taxes were bearing by the common people. Now the the King 16th Louis, under the advice of the Target, Carnot and Target and Karanji are the finance ministers of the France. So advised impose the taxes on the privileged class, because already commoners were unable to bear, because they were already heavy burden. So that impose the taxes on privileged class by the king, so that the privileged class, nobles and clergymen, opposed the imposing of taxes on them, asked the king to summon the parliament. Who are you to impose the new taxes on us? The parliament has to impose the taxes on people. So you are not the right, because parliament tradition was there. So that the he was expected that the parliament maybe sanction the new taxes, but those two estates are opposed. Nobles, clergy estates are opposed. Asked them king to summon the parliament. Thus elections. 175 years. French Estate General. French Estate General means parliament. French parliament was not convened during the period of 14th Louis, 15th Louis, 16th Louis, only at the time of crisis after 175 years. elections were conducted, a state general or parliament was summoned. In the 175 years after the elections, first estate nobles were elected, only 98 people were elected to 285. 285 people were elected in the as the nobles, and 290 people are only elected from the clergy. 285, 290 means less than 600. Now, common people representatives are 620. See, this is the number you count. See, first estate and second estates were less than 600. Third estate means commoners representatives are 620. Now, parliament is convened or summoned, and parliament was sat in the building, parliament building. Then there was an argument is raised in between the parliamentarians, or the first estate, second estate, was argued that each estate was as to given one vote earlier, one vote. Each estate means nobles were enjoying one vote, clergy was enjoying one, estate wise one vote. So means third estate was only one vote. So earlier practice is that one vote of nobles, one vote of clergy, 1-1-2, and commoners 1-1. Then one commoners were always defeating, and the privileged people were getting victory in the imposing laws and the country. Now the third estate people were 621. These together only less than 600. So now the third estate people, estate general commoners are argued that so not by vote by estate, vote by head, vote by individual, all should sit together. Vote by individual is argued. Then their argument, then the by evening, the continuation of the argument, then the parliament parliament building was closed by the evening. Next day they came, commoners came, commoners by coming of commoners, the parliament building is not opened because king was colluded with the privileged class. So he has already deployed the forces surrounding forces from frontier to the Paris, brought the forces to suppress the commoners. So there's the commoners with the support of the first estate people, some people, and second estate people, some people are uh, are assembled beside building of tennis court, beside a court, parliament building beside a court is there. That court is called tennis court, tennis playing court. In that court they took oath. Then took oath they will not disturb, they will not disburse until new constitution was made, and they themselves are declared theirs is a national assembly. Then king was, then defiance of the king order, king was at last asked all the people to sit together, but however, he is brought the forces to suppress the commoners. But this, under these circumstances, commoners, under this period, thus National Assembly, supporters of National Assembly, Paris mob on 14th July, Paris mob, Paris people, large number of common people are on 14th July gone to the Bastille prison fort, broken the prison fort and released all the prisoners from the from prison. All the prisoners were released. That was the celebrated as a national holiday and also national day, and three colors flag hoisted, red, white and blue flag was hoisted as a Independence Day of France, National Day of France, instead of white color flag of the Bourbons. So that is where the revolution started with the brokening of Bastille jail. Then the people gathered, National Assembly. So then supporters of National Assembly and army in the support of the king. So that is where between fights are started in the Paris. Then Paris mob, Paris, Paris people who are a large number of mob and women were marched to the Versailles building where king was living. Thousands of women and men marched, uh, raising the voice, bread and butter, give to us. And that way marched the women, thousands of women, men marched and brought the king, Mary Antoinette, queen, and other royal family into the Paris town. And there a building, Tyrolean building, in that building a house arrest was made, done. Thus, next day, National Assembly, which was also at Versailles, Versailles was a mirror hall, which was constructed by 14th Louis Rajadarpam. That hall, from that hall, the royal family made house arrest in the mid of the Paris. Then National Assembly also shifted to the here. Then the immediately at the time of these revolution was growing. Revolution was National Assembly conflict and this going on. Then in the rural area, what has happened? Against the feudal lords, peasants are revolted. Peasants are captured the lands of the landlords and clergy. Thus, the people or the feudal lords, nobles emigrated to the other countries of Austria, other country, particularly Austria. Austrian emperor's sister was the Mary. This Antoinette was the sister of the Austria prince, Austrian prince, ruler, sister Mary Antoinette, and this 16th Louis was brother-in-law of the Austrian prince, Austrian king. So that is why Austria is announced war against Austria. Prussia announced war against the France, against the France. Then here, then the revolutionaries suspected, thus suspected then one day what happened in the August. So feudal lords, abolition of feudal lords lands were all confiscated. The National Assembly declared through the constitution, through its order, to abolition of feudalism, bill of rights to the people, individual, abolition of feudalism. Then large number of feudals were migrated to the other countries. Thus, they were conspiring and waging war against the France revolutionary nation. So this is way French Revolution. This way here one day what happened after June, August, September? What is happening? August, in the month of August, king was fled away from the Paris because king was almost house arrest. So that is the reason he was not in a position to stay as a house arrest fellow. So that is the reason this fellow was escaped to the frontiers of the France. So there people recognized him as a ruler escaping from the country. One side the wars was going on against the France, suppression of the revolution, but king was escaping. So that king was brought back, king and queen escaping, brought back and national brought back and national convention, and then the and executed the king. King was executed. Then democratic republic of this French nation, with the king was executed on 1793. Then in France there was a the parties are emerged. Those parties are Jacobins, revolutionary, Girondists. That these parties are ultimately executed. The king and queen and the whoever unsympathy to the French Revolution were all killed by Jacobeans revolutionaries. Thus, reign of terror, September massacres are occurred. September massacres are occurred. Why? Because French nation is one side, all other nations, Austria and Prussia on the other side. Our French nation was defeating, so because of the conspiracy of the internal enemies of the France. So that is massacres, Jacobians under Robespierre. So September 2 to September 6th, 4 days, thousands, millions of the people were arrested. 25,000 were executed, guillotined. That's large scale massacre. September, this is called September Massacre. National Convention and a new constitution. And the constitution is that the new constitution. First, it was a unicameralism in the beginning. Then later, the bicameralism, 500 and lower, and a council of state, and 500, 250 national convention. So that is way the French Revolution succeeded. Thanks to one and all. So we are unable to cover. I was decided to complete the French Revolution, but it's a very great revolution. I was unable to complete this lesson. So I will carry this lesson in the next class. Thanks to one and all. Are you able to catch?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Afrina. Afrin, are you able to catch my lesson, my lecture?
Yes, sir.
Huh? Sanjana.
Yes, sir.
So I am going very speed because your people are given very few hours to complete more lessons. Huh? Okay, that is the reason I am going in a very speed way. Thanks to one and all. My time is over. Leave me, okay?